Hello everyone. Before we begin, a little heads up that also counts for all the Order Halls that are still to come. I am going to tell you the story of the Order Hall campaign, but I've already encountered some minor differences here and there between either factions or artifacts or some minor changes that could happen. Since leveling every character to 110 takes enough time as it is, I simply don't have the time to do it for both factions, so please keep that in mind. There might be some minor differences to your experience with the campaign, and if you find any that I missed, please let me know in the comments. Just wanted to make sure that you're aware. With that out of the way, let's talk about the Death Knight campaign. Death Knights have gone about collecting their artifacts, which they will wield in the campaign against the Burning Legion, and upon return to the Order Hall, Darian Mograine lets everybody know who's the boss.
It is time you are given a position that befits your accomplishments. Knights of the Ebon Blade, assemble as we honor one of our own. Before us this day stands our comrade in arms. You have all heard the legends of countless battles fought, of trials overcome at great cost. Her exemplary deeds in the name of the Ebon Blade have shown her to be one of the best of us, worthy of our highest honor. By the will of the Lich King, and upon my authority as High Lord, I declare that this champion, wielder of the blades of the fallen prince, will henceforth be known as Death Lord of the Ebon Blade. You will all bow to her as you once did to me, and carry out her will against the Legion.
Darian is happy that it's not him that was chosen by the Lich King to wield the weapon, since he's done with having magical weapons dictate his fate. This goes back to the time where he used the Ashbringer to sacrifice his own life in exchange for saving his father's soul, and by doing so, he was turned into a Death Knight and forced to obey the will of the Lich King while wielding the corrupted Ashbringer. Who wants a weapon like the Ashbringer anyway? Silly paladins with the titles of High Lords. Death Lord is way edgier and way cooler. We upgrade our weapon with the claimed souls of our defeated enemies, as well as some artifact power, and we choose our first assault point upon the Broken Isles.
The greatest heroes on Azeroth have gathered to face the Burning Legion. But heroes alone will not save this world. Salvation will come at a price the living cannot pay. The time of the Four Horsemen has come, and you will bring about their return. Nazgrim, the fallen general of the Horde, shall be the firstborn. Go now and see that it is done.
The Four Horsemen will ride again, and the first time that we saw them was during Classic within Naxxramas. The group back then consisted of Thane Korthas, who held the power of flame, Lady Blaumeux, who could call forth the power of shadows, drawing souls of the living into voracious embrace, and Sir Ziliak, a paladin in life so strong in faith that even in undeath, the power of the light still heeded his call, smiting his foes in battle. Their leader was actually Darian's father, Alexandros Mograine, who was taken by Kel'Thuzad after he was betrayed by his eldest son, who took the Ashbringer, stabbed him in the back, and corrupted the blade. As I mentioned earlier, Darian sacrificed himself to save his father's soul, and he did this after adventuring into Naxxramas himself and taking out the Four Horsemen. Death is for the living though, and not the damned, so the Three Horsemen returned during Wrath of the Lich King, only now they were led by Baron Rivendare, who could formerly be found within Stratholme. They too met their end, and this time by the hands of adventurers, nobody else to claim victory, they cleared the wings of Naxxramas, and now there is need for the Horsemen once more. This time, not to be the pinnacle of Kel'Thuzad's guard, this time to safeguard Azeroth, and the first one to join the ranks is Nazgrim.
The Four Horsemen. I have my reservations, but I will obey your will, Death Lord. The Horde will be outraged, but Nazgrim will make a powerful Death Knight.
Once a grunt, in service of former Warchief Thrall, General Nazgrim rose quickly through the ranks after overwhelming victories in Grizzly Hills and the sunken city of Vashj'ir. Fiercely loyal to the Horde and bound by a rigorous code of honor and duty, Nazgrim will hold the line for his Warchief until his dying breath. That's the dungeon journal description for Nazgrim, and he was a raid boss during Mist of Pandaria. In that expansion, War Chief Garrus Hellscream was a threat to the world. The Horde and Alliance, they teamed up to siege Orgrimmar, but Nazgrim was so loyal that he couldn't step away, and we ended his life. He deserves the peace of death. But this world cries out to be saved. The time for rest is over. Let's welcome Nazgrim into the arms of the damned.
Nazgrim, your Death Lord calls. Feel the icy grip of your master, and rise once more.
I live again. How long has it been since I tasted death?
Long enough, my friend. The Burning Legion has returned, and you have been called to the battle.
Say no more. I will sever their heads from their bodies.
Indeed you shall, General. Indeed you shall.
The Horde might be furious by our actions, but Nazgrim understands what's at stake, and he, together with Visarion, they become part of our champions, ready to be sent out on missions across the Broken Isles.
We do what the living cannot.
The first mission is critical for the growth and power of our order, as we send them out to seek new candidates for the Ebon Blade. They return with Dark Summoner Marrok, who allows us to raise packs of ghouls to assist our champions on their missions. Now that we bolster our numbers, we display our might by taking on some of the sea giants, and once that mission is complete, Archiver Subashi arrives in the Order Hall, granted the ability to upgrade good old Akrus. Now if we're going to have the 4 horsemen to ride with us, then they'll need something to ride on. Salenar the Horseman, the same Salenar that provided Death Knights with their very first mount so long ago, he will be perfect for the job and should be found somewhere within the Realm of Shadows. One trip to this realm later, and Salenar is informed about our need for his skills. He'll show up at the Order Hall later on, and we'll meet him when he does. Now it's time to focus on recruiting the second horseman.
The time of the second horseman has come, Death Lord. Upon the cliffs of Erethdor stands the fallen kingdom of Stromgarde. It is there that you will find the tomb of Thoros Trollbane, the great warrior king. His strength in battle was without rival, and he shall be even more powerful in undeath.
Thoros Trollbane was one of the greatest kings this world has known. The Alliance will not be pleased. Nevertheless, your will be done, Death Lord. The Ebon Blade will be honored to bring King Thoros into our fold.
It seems your Death Lord has finally arrived.
You should watch your tone, Galen.
Prince Galen is willing to help us with gaining access to the tomb if we help him with his Widowbark problem by cutting down a couple of the trolls and destroying their supplies. This is obviously not the Trollbane that we came for. Our Trollbane was a freaking badass during his time in the Alliance of Lordaeron, when Paranold, another member of the Alliance, when he betrayed their faction and he allowed the first Horde safe passage through his mountains, he basically handed over the planet on a platter. It was Trollbane who realized what was going on. The Horde at the time was laying siege to the capital city of Lordaeron, but Trollbane made his moves and he held back reinforcements for the Horde army. He played a big part in the victory of the Alliance. The Horde was eventually defeated, and in times of peace, the Alliance of Lordaeron started to fall apart. The High Elves of Silvermoon, they turned their back on them, and eventually Gilneas and Stromgarde, led by Trollbane, they did the same. Time passed away, and so did Thoros Trollbane. Now news of his death reached the Horde, and it was Vol'jin who instructed players to go to the ruins of Stromgarde, find the legendary sword Trolkelar, and take it out of the humans' hands so that they could use it in the conflict against the trolls of Zul'Gurub. The sword had been in the Trollbane line for generations, going back all the way to the Troll Wars, and it was sealed away within Thoros' tomb. In order to unlock the tomb, they had to collect sigils, and one of these sigils was in the hands of Prince Galen Trollbane, which they then murdered, and the troll Zengu took the sword from the tomb with the intention of using it against the trolls of Zul'Gurub. That's not where the tale ends though. Despite many fans wishing for Danav Trollbane to claim the kingdom, and Danav is Thoros' nephew, instead we saw the Forsaken, under the orders of Sylvanas, resurrecting Galen as an undead. Turns out that on his way back, the troll Zengu was actually cut down by humans, and the sword was simply reclaimed. We joined Galen as he served the Dark Lady, and he obtained the blade, a weapon to bring death to the living in the name of the Dark Lady, or at least so they thought. In truth, Galen just sought to reclaim the weapon and his kingdom, and now we find him ruling his ruined kingdom of Stromgarde. After fulfilling his request, we return to hold him to his end of the bargain.
Stromgarde is mine at last. You are fools if you think I'll let my father have it back. Guards, seize them!
King Galen has made a big mistake by wasting our time and trying to betray the Ebon Blade. If he will not open the tomb of his father, then we must take the sword and do it ourselves.
My patience has worn thin as well. Let's find the prince and be done with this.
You are fighting against a power you cannot even comprehend.
Stromgarde is mine! I will not give it up to my father or anyone else. I am the prince! How dare you!
With the blade, we can enter the tomb and resurrect King Thoras, one of the greatest warriors this world has ever known. His people loved him and enemies feared him. He only spoke truth, often saying the words others were afraid to speak. He lived a life of war and certainly deserves the peace of death. But this is not a man who would sleep peacefully while the world around him burns. The time has come to welcome the lost true King of Stromgarde into the arms of the dead and damned.
My son, where is Galen? Where is the prince who murdered his king?
We took his life, my lord. The prince left us little choice.
What has become of Stromgarde?
Death and ruin. Time has not been kind to this place.
Then I have failed as both a father and a king.
Stromgarde is lost, but there is still hope for this world, if you will join us.
I will do whatever it takes to preserve peace on Azeroth.
So it was actually his own son that took his life, and Trollbane will stand at our side in the defense of Azeroth.
We do what the living cannot.
Before we continue with one of my favorite Order Hall campaigns, we first have a side quest that's, in my opinion, a little bit disappointing. Vasarian asked for our aid in rescuing Koltira, who was taken captive by Sylvanas during the Cataclysm, as she found out that there was a friendship between these two Death Knights, and she thought that it was a weakness. For years, fans speculated on where this might take us, what Sylvanas might do to him, but it turns out to be something that Blizzard is not interested in exploring further. We simply go into the Undercity, we kill a couple of ghouls and blobs and Gurgoth until we find the cage.
We are here to free you at last, my brother.
Vasarian, is it really you? It has been such a long time.
Indeed, it has. We must hurry before the guards come.
And that's it. The only thing different that I could spot was the removal of Koltira's tattoos, but I think that was just a glitch. When you speak with him back at Ekeris, he just says that he's thankful, he knew that the Ebon Blade did not forsake him, and he does not wish to elaborate on his years in captivity. That time has passed, and we are now presented with imminent danger from the Burning Legion, and that's it. It's a little bit disappointing to see this story arc die like that, but what can you do? And it doesn't take away from the overall awesome story arc that goes on within the Order Hall, since Ekeris has some visitors. Korkas Dedex has shown up offering additional Death Knights. We're not just creating Uber Horsemen, we're also making more Death Knights, and the Lich King would definitely be proud of Ekeris, while Selenar has also finally arrived. He tells us that the unholy bond between horseman and steed must not be taken lightly. Power begets power, and he can forge an inseparable bond between rider and steed, but components of great power are required. For the reins, he'll need a braid, a dark shamanic adornment in the possession of Darkrul the Underking. In order to subjugate the dark steeds of the apocalypse, he will need a nightmare lash with the power to suffocate all hope, all light from a living soul. The Shade of Xavius carries this one with him, and the third and final component is a Maul of the Dead. With it, he'll be able to craft a barding, armor so strong, so impenetrable, no demon shall break it, and the Maul is in the possession of the fallen Queen Helja. It's up to us to personally collect these components, while our champions, they got their own ingredients to collect. They go out to collect the saddle of Invincible, the former steed of Arthas, which was lost beneath Icecrown. The saddle used by Sir Thomas, also known as the Headless Horseman, buried in the cemetery of the Scarlet Monastery. The saddle of Deathcharger, former steed of Baron Rivendare, which, upon his defeat, was returned to Stratholme. The saddle of Midnight, the steed of Atuman the Huntsman, found somewhere within the ruins of Karazhan. And finally, the Shadow Reigns used by Grave, an ancient Dark Rider. With that grocery list done, the Lich King reports in with the name of the third horseman.
Inquisitor Whitemane was a priest whose personal tragedy forged an intense connection with the light. Her zealous power of will is necessary to strengthen the bond of the Four. Travel to the Scarlet Monastery and raise the High Inquisitor from her tomb inside the cathedral.
We must fall. There are few in this world who have lived with more conviction than High Inquisitor Whitemane. Death has a way of quelling the madness of the mind. I am sure she will serve the Ebon Blade without compromise.
We have a single purpose here, to raise Sally Whitemane as a Death Knight of the Ebon Blade. But while we're here, we also take care of the remaining Scarlet Crusaders, and we use their fallen against them by resurrecting them as ghouls.
The Scourge has risen against us. Send the invaders back to their graves! Should you fall, know that your sacrifice will bring me great glory this day!
Are there none among the Scarlet Crusade with the strength to challenge me?
At a young age, Sally Whitemane witnessed her family succumb to the horrific plague of undeath as they were traveling through northern Lordaeron. She was then forced to destroy her own parents and siblings when they rose as mindless scourge minions, leaving her wrecked by guilt and rage. Ever since that day, the fearsome priestess have found fulfillment and pleasure in only one thing: the destruction of undead. She eventually found her way into an organization called the Scarlet Crusade. Now, those that followed Alexandros Mograine back then, they had a clear vision, cleansing their land of the undead. But as you know by now, Alexandros was betrayed by his eldest son Renaud. It was the Dreadlord Belnazar who had taken over the body of Seyden Davrohan, and he convinced Renaud that this was the best course of action. For his betrayal, Belnazar rewarded Renaud by making him the first commander of the organization, and that organization was called the Scarlet Crusade. These were the most fanatic when it came to cleansing their lands, and they thought that the order should remain pure, while others, amongst the Maxwell Therosis, they realized that they were becoming too fanatic. They stepped away, and they formed their own organization, the Argent Dawn, and this is the organization that Darian Mograine joined. Now, as you might imagine, an organization ruled by a Dreadlord from the Shadows, that can only mean doom, and several times heroes ventured into the monastery to take care of the Crusade, and several times the Crusade simply crawled their way back in. During Mist of Pandaria, we teamed up with Lillian Voss, and we pierced Whitemane's corpse with the Blades of the Anointed, said to be able to permanently kill Whitemane, and they did. Until this moment, until the Knights of the Ebon Blade have need of her.
Those who terrorize the innocent have no place in this world or the next. The realm of shadow offers little respite to the souls of the wicked.
Trollbane has taken it upon himself to coat the walls with Crusaders' blood, and it simply looks amazing.
You defile the sanctity of this chapel with your presence. The holy light shall burn you! By the power of the light, I will banish you, Scourge! My faith has forsaken me?
Death can bring a silent peace to the soul, but not for Sally. Her death is one of regret and unrest. We will offer her the chance to atone for her crimes. The price will be high, but they have little doubt that she'll pay it.
Rise up, High Inquisitor. Your Death Lord calls you back to this world.
I live? Is the anguish of death over?
We have not come to offer peace, High Inquisitor.
Why then? Why have you done this to me?
The day of reckoning is at hand. The Burning Legion has come to destroy our world. The Knights of the Ebon Blade have come to offer you a chance at atonement.
Atonement? I doubt that such a thing exists for me.
Join us, and we will find out together.
Indeed we shall.
There is no greater hatred and scorn in this world than that which exists in Sally's heart. The Burning Legion will pay for all that they've taken from her. The day of judgment awaits, but theirs is at hand, and she will be the executioner's blade. She will not rest until every demon lays dead, their corpse paving the very ground she walks.
We do what the living cannot.
The third horseman has been recruited, and the preparations for conjuring their steeds of the damned is nearly complete. 5 unholy essences, known as the Aggregates of Anguish, are required for the ritual, so our champions go out to collect them from souls in the Shadowlands. There is the Essence of Undeath, taken from Grand Apothecary Putris, the same Putris who betrayed Sylvanas during Wrath of the Lich King, leading into the events at the Wrath Gates and the battle for Undercity. The Essence of Fear, taken from Grand Empress Shexir, the Mented Queen who was taken over by the Shah of Fear during Mist of Pandaria. Then there is the Essence of Hatred, taken from none other than Admiral Dalen Proudmoore. This is Jaina Proudmoore's father, consumed by thirst for revenge when his son was murdered by the orcs, and I assume that when his daughter led the orcs into Fettermore just simply kill him, I assume that did not help. Then, the Essence of Darkness, taken from Arugal, who summoned a Worgen in the defense of Gilneas, and unfortunately the Worgen turned on their people, causing them to live as Worgen themselves. And finally, the Essence of Shadow, taken from Soulbinder Niami. This one is probably the most interesting, since Soulbinder Niami, she's a Draenei that betrayed her people during Warlords of Draenor, and then we take her out within Auchindoun. She came from alternate Draenor, which means that this realm, the Shadowlands, it transcends realities. On top of that, we can also find out why she betrayed her people, since the quest reward is a letter from Exarch Maladar. The letter begins, "Dear Niami, it is with regret that I must tell you that your son is amongst those kidnapped by the orcs. We fear the worst." So either she was blackmailed, or the worst actually happened to her child. Lost with grief, she turned to the dark side, and she teamed up with the Legion. It's up to us to fill in those blanks, but I thought it was a very, very nice detail to add to this questline. So as we work on the grocery list, a couple of minor questy things happen. We unlock the ability to research the history of our artifacts. We complete world quests to meet the increased aggression from the Legion. The Ebonblade is very happy with our leadership, so they give us a helmet. We collect body parts, amongst them the Eye of Cordana, which is then used to create Rotgut.
Rotgut.
Then we're sent into the Eye of Azshara to collect an ancient amulet called the Frozen Soul, created by Queen Azshara herself. From it, we learn that the Wrath of Azshara, the end boss of the dungeon, it was created with the frozen soul of Lysandre, a handmaiden who loved the queen so much that she sacrificed herself to become vengeance incarnate. Upon returning the item, Amalfazad is so happy with us that he decides to become our champion.
We do what the living cannot.
We are
There
done here.
must be one among the 4 horsemen with the power to lead. Without a leader, there will be no unity among the 4. The time has come for the Ebon Blade to return to Light's hope. The body of the great Tyrion Fordring rests beneath the chapel. Go now, and do what must be done.
The Knights of the Tyrion Fordring was one of the greatest champions this world has known. If we do this, there will be a price to pay. I will obey, Deathlord, but know this. Should we go through with this, there will be no turning back.
The 4th and final horseman, the one that would lead them all into battle, has been chosen by the Lich King to be Tyrion Fordring. Once, when Arthas was still the Lich King, he also sent Darion and his Death Knights to Light's Hope Chapel, not in any hope of victory. He was fully aware that their lives were forfeit, but he also knew that it could draw out the Great Paladin Fordring and take out this enemy of light. Darion prevented that from happening as he tossed the corrupted Ashbringer to his old friend, and by touching it, Tyrion purified it, brought it back to his holy state. He forced Arthas to retreat from Light's Hope Chapel, and eventually he shattered the blade Frostmourne. As most of you know by now, Tyrion lost his life on the Broken Shores, and it seems like history is about to repeat itself, only now Tyrion will be unable to defend himself.
Interred just beyond those walls is the body of Tyrion Fordring, one of the greatest champions our world has known. The Silver Hand will not give him to us willingly. So, we will take him by force! Deathlord, we will begin at your command. There is a tomb behind the chapel, where the power of the light is weak. Raise the dead from within the tomb, and it will distract the guards long enough for us to make our way to the chapel.
Tread carefully, Death Knight. This is holy ground, and we have little tolerance for your kind. My lord, we're under attack! It's the Ebon Blade!
Tyrion's body rests below us, in the Hall of Champions. We will join you shortly, Death Lord.
You will not succeed, Tyrion. The light will not allow it.
Is Lady Liadrin holding down the fort as we fight her in the Halls of Champions? It seems like the High Lord is out questing elsewhere, possibly find the Legion, but Liadrin is not the final line of defense.
Without monsters, there can be no heroes.
The time has come, Death Lord. Tyrion Fordring awaits. At last, the four horsemen shall have their leader. What is this? No! I will not allow the Ebon Blade to fall! The Death Gate. Take it!
The light itself protected one of its greatest champions, and Darion heroically sacrificed himself to get us out of there. You'd imagine that the Lich King would know that the Light's Hope Chapel is simply untakeable, or perhaps he actually did.
High Lord, we must do something before it's too late.
The light has ravaged his body. There is nothing we can do for him.
Even in a lifetime of war, I have never before seen such sacrifice.
Darion Mograine has sacrificed more for the Ebon Blade than any other. His body lays before you, broken, scarred. But death is for the living. It has no power over the damned. Your fourth horseman lays before you, Death Lord. Command him to rise.
Darion can see now what he did not see before. His destiny was written long ago, and like his father before him, he will take position as leader of the Four Horsemen.
Horsemen! Our destiny is at hand! The Burning Legion shall tremble before the power of the Four Horsemen!
I really hope that we could get one of those horses for the Death Lord as well, because they look amazing. Either way, the Four Horsemen have obtained their mounts, they've come together under the leadership of Darion Mograine, and they're ready to defend the world of Azeroth against the threats of the Legion. Hopefully, the Paladins back at Light's Hope Chapel, hopefully they won't hold a grudge.
Death Lord, we have all watched in awe as you cut a swath through our foes with your ancient weapon. Your legend grows, and it is fitting that the fearsome artifact you wield increases in potency as well. By infusing the resources you've gathered with the souls you've claimed, the Forge will unlock the true potential of your weapon's destructive might. It is done! Against your strength, the Legion will surely fall!
And that's where one of my favorite Order Hall campaign ends. That's where the Order Hall campaign for Death Knights ends, at least for the moment. I really hope you enjoyed it, everybody. And considering how long it took me to make this one, I can't wait to cover every single Order Hall campaign that Legion has to offer. For now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, guys, see ya!
The darkness does not die. Rage against the nightmare. Struggle as you will. The infinite dark is patient. We will all be claimed in the end. See the spirits writhe and twist, the numberless shades forsaken by time. The dead outnumber the living, and always will. So many fallen kings, silent in their numberless graves. Even the mighty are rendered nameless by time. Every king must kneel before death. You believe that you are in control, that your will is your own. Yet you do as he commands.